Good morning and welcome all of you. It's so wonderful to have you joining us this morning for Stories That Heal with one of my favorite people in the world, Anne Randolph. So welcome. We're just going to let people join us. We've disabled the waiting room. So wonderful to see you all here. Some of you I recognize from Anne's Unmute class. Others I recognize from our Elisabeth Kübler-Ross Foundation community events. And if you could be, if you want to put up in the chat where it is you're zooming in from, that's always just wonderful to see that there's people from all over the country and often people from all over the world that are joining us for these events. My name is Susan Barber, and I am managing the community education programs for the Elisabeth Kübler-Ross Foundation. It's one of my great joys to be able to do that. And I just want to read a little bit, just briefly for those of you that are here for the first time, a little bit about the foundation. The Elisabeth Kübler-Ross Foundation is a not-for-profit organization that's been inspired by the life of psychiatrist, humanitarian, and hospice pioneer, Dr. Elisabeth Kübler-Ross. It's in the spirit of embracing all of life, which includes death, that we further her mission and vision through collaborations, education, and advocacy. And currently, the foundation is working with people in countries around the world to bring palliative care and end-of-life care that's appropriate for the people that are receiving it. And Ken Ross has carried on his mother's legacy in just a very beautiful way. This morning, I am so excited because one of my very favorite people in the world is going to be here today, Anne Randolph, who has been my writing teacher for 12 years now. So I hesitate to say, because I always follow that by saying, and she's going to stab me with a little fork because I haven't written my memoir yet, but I have written, and I want to thank Anne so much for this. I've been tasked in the last couple of years putting together a manual to train people who are incarcerated on palliative and end-of-life care, and was able to do that because of all the work that I had done previously with Anne. There was no way I would have been able to put together a 475-page anything without the support from Anne and the class, and it's in particular the Unmute class that Anne runs. And we'll talk a little bit more about that. Anne has generously offered to the foundation that if people find this useful, this exercise this morning, and they're interested in joining us for Unmute, which is usually a month-long class Monday through Fridays, that Anne is giving the foundation 50% of the tuition, which is an enormous benefit to us because we don't have really, we do this out of love for the material and out of love for Elisabeth. So thank you. Long Island in the house. I'm from Long Island. There we go. So I want to get started by giving you a little bit of information about Anne, and then all the information you'll need to know will happen when Anne shows up here. And Anne is an award-winning, trailblazing solo performer celebrated for her ability to delve into the depths of the human experience with a captivating blend of heartbreak and outrageous humor. The first time I saw Anne, it was in my small town, Alameda, where she was performing a remarkable solo show called Loveland, which is all about grief and loss, and her character, Franny Potts' inability and an ability to navigate through this loss. And I will say for myself that writing with Anne, there's just so much I have discovered about loss, despite working for over 30 years in end-of-life care. Some of the greatest discoveries about loss and grief have come from writing with Anne, and really looking at the way that every story is ultimately about loss. And so without me saying anything more than that, I really want to introduce Anne. And I'm going to spotlight you, even though, I guess I'm not going to do that. So Anne, why don't you go ahead, and folks, if you have your Zoom set up
everybody
on speaker view, you'll be able to see now. Thanks.
It's wonderful to see everybody out there in Zoom land. Thank you for taking this time to be together and writing about grief and loss. And I'd like to start, before I even get into the guidelines, what we're going to be doing in the hour and a half, is to share a poem with you about loss by Jeff Foster. And if you're not familiar with Jeff Foster, he's a non-dual teacher, and I had the good fortune of teaching with him at Esalen, and here it is. You will lose everything. You will lose everything: your money, your power, your fame, your success, perhaps even your memories. Your looks will go, loved ones will die, your body will fall apart. Everything that seems permanent is impermanent and will be smashed. Experience will gradually, or not so gradually, strip away everything that it can strip away. Waking up means facing this reality with open eyes and no longer turning away. But right now, we stand on sacred and holy ground, for that which will be lost has not yet been lost. And realizing this is the key to unspeakable joy. Whoever or whatever is in your life right now has not yet been taken away from you. This may sound trivial, obvious, like nothing, but really it is the key to everything and why and how and wherefore of existence. Impermanence has already rendered everything and everyone around you so deeply holy and significant and worthy of your heartbreaking gratitude. Loss has already transfigured your life into an altar. Thank you, Susan, for sharing that. And that is one of my all-time favorite poems by Jeff Foster. He's a beautiful writer, and every one of us in this Zoom room has experienced loss, tremendous loss, and we're going to continue to experience loss throughout our lives, and joy. That's the line that stuck with me in that Jeff Foster poem, that what is here right now, right in front of us here, and looking out here on Zoomland and seeing so many familiar faces that I've come to know through stories, and then welcoming new people who I've never met. But this idea that we're here, we can express, we can create, we can write. And why do that? Why take an hour and a half out of our day to write about our stories, to write about our grief and loss? Because it's healing. It's healing to put our feelings down onto the page. And many of you, I know myself included, like when I start to put something on the page, I get scared sometimes. I'm like, what's going to come up? Is emotion going to come up? Is it feeling? Because when we're writing about loss, sometimes we revisit, right? We go back to those painful memories, and all those feelings come up, and those feelings want to come out. I know when I was writing about my mom, she had a stroke and my dad was dying all at the same time. And I'm writing and I'm crying and I'm writing and I'm crying while I'm writing, and I'm writing comedy. And what's comedy come from? The deepest pain. So I'm writing my way through that while at the same time I got a box of Kleenex. If you've ever seen the movie As Good as It Gets with Diane Keaton, and her heart is broken and she's at the typewriter writing and she's crying, writing and crying. So if those feelings come up today, let them come and keep on writing. Or maybe a feeling of rage will come up, or you'll just feel numb, you'll feel nothing. I just want to assure you that whatever arises, just welcome it. Let it be there. Don't push anything away. Don't resist anything. Let it arise and let it breathe. It wants to come out. And I think sometimes we're overwhelmed because we think, well, if I put it on the page, I'm going to have to do something about it. I'm looking at it. It's overwhelming. I might feel like I'm out of control. I just want to, again, assure you, let it come out. Let it come out on that page. And the censor's going to want to come in and try to direct you to not speaking about something. Instead, just say, hello, censor. There you are again. I hear you, but I'm going to keep writing. And it is healing. It is cathartic. And I know this from personal experience and students' experience, and I also know this from studies that have been done. James Pennebaker, he's a social psychologist, and he did a study along with many others that if you write about grief and loss and fear and doubt, and if you did that for 15 minutes a day for 4 consecutive days, there's improved mood, positive mood, there's less stress, the cortisol levels go down. And one begins to get clarity and insight and understanding about the past, about where we are in our life right now. So there's incredible benefits to doing what we're going to do here today. It makes us feel better. And isn't that what we all want to be? We want to feel a little better. And that's what putting our pen down to that page will do. And I like us to, and that's what we're going to do. We're going to write, share. And you don't have to share if you don't want to. You can keep it as private as you like. This is for you. And I like to start out each session with an invocation. And this is an invocation I wrote, and I would like us to all say it out loud. You can keep yourself muted, but let's say it out loud. And may I welcome today with a spirit of wonder. May I have the courage to speak my truth. May I honor my story and my voice, knowing my story and my voice matter. May I welcome all feelings. To feel is to heal. May I welcome uncertainty, not knowing what words will want to be written or spoken next. May I recognize my humanity in another, and may I trust the deep wisdom within me and call upon this wisdom for guidance. And Susan's going to copy that and put that in chat. But right now, I would like you to look at that invocation or anything that you just spoke out loud. And was there one of those lines that was challenging for you to say? Or like, do I really believe my story matters? Did anybody have anything come up and just saying those lines? And if so, can you write it in chat? And I'm going to look it in the chat right now as well. But I want to see if anybody struggled with knowing that their story matters or what they have to say matters. And if so, okay. Would anybody like to just raise their hand of what that was like to say out loud, that invocation, and if they were challenged with anything? And Susan will call on you. And if not, we'll keep going here. Okay. All right.
I find it's should I just talk? I don't know
Go
how
ahead,
to.
Barbara.
Well,
Yes, go
yeah.
ahead.
Yeah, just to get it going. It's interesting that you asked us a question about that right now, because I was gung ho. May I welcome today with a spirit of wonder. May I have the courage. Then after the speak my truth. That's all good. Then may I honor my story, my voice, knowing my voice. It slipped up it went up. There we go. So my voice matter. You're right. I went away. I can remember my brain like just like kind of shutting off. I was like totally in it, and all of a sudden I was thinking about other thoughts, because that maybe was too much to think. That my story and my voice, knowing my story and my voice matter.
Right.
That's the
Yeah.
reverse magnet that goes boing boing.
Yeah.
I approach it and boing, the Teflon. So thank you for asking the question, because it just happened.
Yeah. And I think it happens for many of us, Barbara. It happens for me as a comic I was writing. I thought, and I worked in a homeless shelter for 10 years, and I would write the women's stories at the shelter because to me, they had done courageous acts. They had come off the street. They're now in the shelter. And I thought their story matters so much more than mine. I would tell their stories, not mine. I would compare my own grief and loss to their grief and loss. And I'm thinking, well, who am I to write about this? They've had it so much more worse than me. And then eventually my whole journey as an artist was to learn to claim my own story, my own voice. And it is not easy because like I'm comparing, I'm looking at other people's stories, but it's so important. And I know it now. I know in my bones and from hearing students that this is the most important thing, is to really feed that part of you, feed that part and affirm that your story matters, your voice matters.
What is the quote that you
Okay.
mentioned? Is it David White that says the next close thing?
Yeah, we're going to get there. We're going to get there, Barbara. Yeah.
That's the thing that saves me. Is like that thing.
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead.
That's okay. I'm so glad to see you, Barbara. A
Yes.
couple more people, and then we're going to do our first write around this.
Yes, there's Edgar and then Susie Porter. Edgar, do you want to unmute yourself?
Go ahead.
Yes, well, thank you, and Anna, Anne, I think your story is very important, but also you're in a position to write their stories, and some of them are not able to articulate. So you're doing a great thing for the people in the shelter. I was touched by the uncertainty of what comes next, but I looked upon it as being exciting. That I don't know what I will write next, and I'm wondering what prompt I'll be given and what will come out that I didn't expect.
I love that. And that's a beautiful spirit of willingness that you're sharing right now. And I also want to remove the spotlight, Susan, so it can go back and forth easily without it. Okay, there we go. It is that openness, that curiosity. That's the way you want to approach the writing today. And I want to hear from one more person, and then we're going to do guidelines and do our first write. Okay.
How about
I love that.
The next person up was Susie Porter.
Go ahead, Susie.
Hi, Anne Randolph. I love you. I've worshipped you from afar for many, many years. I because I studied with Terry Silverman for like 15 years, and so she always talks about you all the time. And I saw you at Wendy Tasty Words thing. I just adore you. You're one of my top people who I is a role model for me. So I've written a one-woman show. I've written a bunch of stuff, but still I find resistance to writing about Pollyanna is my archetype who I want to be. I want to be happy and optimistic all the time. And yet, even though I've been writing for 63 years, don't tell anyone, I've been writing my whole life, there is still so much dark, icky, angry, rage, sadness there. And even though I'm a big fat hypocrite, I'm a writing coach, I myself still don't like writing about the icky, sad. It just seems like it never ends. Can you help me, Anne?
Well, we're gonna write right now about that. And the first thing I would say is we're gonna do a 7-minute writing. I'm gonna do the guidelines, and I'm gonna give you a specific prompt. And then I'm gonna give everybody else another prompt, but anybody out there listening can take her specific prompt too, because I think that's a really big thing for many people, is that we don't want to write about that sad stuff. We don't want to write about the things that are gonna bring up a lot of emotion, or things that are shameful. I always quote Steve Allman that the path to truth runs through shame. The path to truth runs through shame. And even if you're writing fiction, is colored with the dark ink of your own freakish secrets. So it's letting that out, and it's scary. It is so scary. And that's why writing today, everybody here, it takes tremendous courage to do what we're going to do. And here are the guidelines for writing. Is first, stream of consciousness writing, meaning you're just going to write. It might sound like a journal, maybe it comes out as story, but to let go of making it come out in a certain way and just stream of consciousness. Don't worry about spelling or grammar. Don't cross anything out. And if you feel yourself getting stuck, write what's next, what's next, what's next, like a broken record, and something I promise will emerge. And if you find yourself on a tangent, you started at one place, we're going way somewhere else, that has nothing to do with the prompt, let yourself go on that tangent. So we're going to take 7 minutes right now, and we're going to write about the invocation. And I'll have Susan put it back up again, the copy in the chat. But what makes you question that your story matters? Or when have you silenced yourself from speaking your own truth? When's the last time you silenced yourself and you didn't really let your voice come through? And it could be, and you might go back to childhood, that you had to silence yourself because it was safer to silence yourself. But think about, when's the last time I silenced stuff? What stops me from sharing my story? What makes me question that my story matters? These are all prompts coming from the invocation. Or maybe there's one in the invocation that speaks to you more than that. But the first thing is getting in touch with possibly like this inner critic and saying, hey, inner critic, why are you showing up now? Why are you saying my story doesn't matter? And actually dialoguing with that critic. And the question that I would have for you, Susie, is, and this could go to anybody too, if I write about what I'm most afraid to write about is, because what's going to happen if I write about these scary things? So there we go. Susan, Susan's got the prompts up there. What makes you question that your story matters? Thank you, Sherry. When have you silenced yourself? There they all are. What stops you? Why are you showing up now, inner critic, to try to stop me from exploring in this hour and a half? What am I afraid of? So 7 minutes, here we go. And let's write. Let's address this. Yeah. And no, you can just pick one. You don't have to answer all these. Just pick one and start writing. One more minute. Okay. I would love, that was a short write. We're going to have multiple times today, probably 2 or 3 more times to do short writes like this. But I'm really curious what you just discovered in just doing this 7-minute write. If anybody would like to share, raise your hand. And if you'd like to read a little bit of it, raise your hand. Susan, do we have anybody out there?
Yes, we have Sherry. And Sherry, if you would like to unmute, please go ahead.
Hi, thank you. Thanks
Great.
for,
Good to see you. Okay. How was it for you, Sherry?
it was so helpful. I didn't even realize something so important that just started pouring out. And what it is that I had a dream come true a few years ago. I had an essay in the New York Times Modern Love section, which was a lifelong dream, lifelong dream. And I so poured my heart into that, and I wanted to share a particular story about how we can retain family after breaking up with someone, how we can, create new love, new possibility. And
Yes.
I got so much hate, so much hate. Every time I opened up my email, my social media, everything, of course, I got the other part too, but I could not, and still I could cry when I feel the shame that it brought up in having what I was trying to offer be held with such darkness.
I'm so sorry that happened, and it does happen. The minute we put our work out into the wide world, we are at the mercy of Twitter trolls. We're at the mercy of people leaving comments that are brutal. And of course, yes, we also get the beautiful comments, but our little fragile ego, mine's ego, like I hear that negative comment and it's like a knife wound. And it's really hard then when you get that kind of feedback sometimes to say, okay, I'm going to go back out there again. I'm going to put my story up again because there is shame. And I know exactly what you're talking about. You experience that shame. Like, really? Is that really how they felt about that piece? And that's why as artists, it takes so much daggone courage to keep getting up and putting it out again and again. And um, I feel for you. I've had it, I've had people like on my YouTube videos, you're the ugliest woman ever. You don't know, like just reaming, I'm going to find you and get you because I'll put out edgy material. So it can be scary. When I put my show off Broadway in New York, Mel Brooks and Anne Bancroft produced it. And Anne Bancroft said, and whatever you do, do not read your reviews. And so I almost sometimes want to say, I don't want to read my comments, but I can't help myself. I can't.
I know.
Oh.
They warned me. The editor at the New York Times warned me. He said, do not, but I couldn't avoid it because they came from crazy places.
Yeah.
I was, and yeah, but thank you so much. It felt so good to acknowledge that because I didn't even realize how much I was holding back.
Would you like to read what you just wrote to us? Would you like to share what you just wrote to us?
I think I kind of just said it because really it wasn't.
Okay.
Yeah, but thank you. And thank you so much. Just hearing from you, that you understand. That means everything.
Yes, I do. I do. Our artistic self, our creative self, we're just so vulnerable. And even though we'll get 99 positive comments, we will hold on to that negative one. They were right? Which is crazy. We have to keep affirming the goodness of how people are inspired by our work. And if you don't have many of us out here don't have any desire to put the work out in the world, we're doing it because it's cathartic and it is healing. And I'd love to hear from anybody else if they want to share about what they discovered or if they would like to share a piece of the writing they just wrote.
And
Go.
Stream and Maroda have their hand up.
Great.
Aloha.
Oh, Stream, great to see you again.
Good to
Wonderful.
see you. And that's Miranda.
Hi, Miranda.
Oh yeah, I'll read what I wrote.
Okay. Wonderful.
I sort
Stream.
of know that my story, words, feelings matter to people who love and care about me. Yet I have written a book on my male sexuality, and it is not moving toward a greater audience. And though I wrote with passion. My passion to share that book or my poetry is waning as I experience what seems to be other people disinterested or even ghosting me and not wanting to hear what I share. But when I do share, like open mic, I get my very positive response. And I guess some part of my inner child, critic, hider in closets, is rearing its ugly head and pulling me out of the spotlight that I think I do desire, because I do believe I have valuable experience and insights that can be beneficial and move humanity toward more love, more peace, and living in joy. My words do not only matter, but are exquisitely valuable.
Oh, Stream, I love what you just shared, because it was a journey, right, of questioning your story because not getting the reception that one wants, or getting it out in a wide world, but coming to know, no, it matters. What I have to say is a gift. It can help humanity. And I know that from sharing, from hearing your poetry. And I think we get caught in a culture that if we don't have this many likes, this many views, this many invitations, that our work, our voice doesn't matter. And it does. So it was beautiful to see you own that at the end, Stream.
Mahalo, Ann.
Can we own it for ourselves? Can we do it just for ourselves, our own being, our own unique expression? Okay, let's hear from somebody else out there, and then we will probably get to another right here.
Galia, I hope I didn't mispronounce your name.
You got it
Okay.
right. Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, so I went, I just berated myself, so I'm just gonna read it.
Okay.
There are other things to do. This is not important. You have real things to do. You are wasting time. Do you really believe you can write a book? Do you really believe you can publish a book? Who would want to read your book? Who cares about your book? It has taken you 10 years and you still don't have it done. You're never going to do it. You just waste time. You're escaping from doing real work by convincing yourself that you want to do this writing thing. You are not organized. You have all the time in the world and you still don't have anything of real meaning. You have a box of your writing and you don't you don't even touch it. Why don't you touch it? You don't believe that you can do anything with it. You don't believe there's real work there. It's too hard. Well, boo-hoo. You have to sit and do the work. You are not doing the work. You are going in all different directions. You have no focus. 1 minute you're here, the next minute you're there. You need to sit and focus and do real work. If you truly want to write, you have you have to set other things on the side and tell yourself that for the next 2 months, that's all you are doing. Only then will I believe you. And that you believe you that you truly want to write. Without that, you're delusional. But why don't you even want to write? Just because why do you even want to write? Just because someone told you you need to write a book? You don't want to write about yourself. You're too scared. That's why you've been avoiding it. You need to find your angle.
Beautiful. How was that to express that out loud to this whole group here? How was that to
Scary.
share that? Yeah,
Scary.
scary. Very vulnerable. And I want to see a show of hands out there. How many could relate to the inner critic voices that she was sharing? Right? Probably everybody out there in Zoom land, myself included, like, who are you to write? What's going on? That inner critic. And Stephen Pressfield, who wrote The Art of War, talks about this. It's a daily battle to create, because what you're speaking about is resistance and fear and doubt. And just because it can happen to people that have been published writers their whole entire life, it can happen to people that have never written. It hits you every single day. And the most important thing is to sit down at that pen and do the work. And the ways to deal with that inner critic is first that awareness. It's trying to stop you. It might be trying to stop you saying, okay, why am I doing this? I'm getting off the Zoom call right now. But anything that you're going to do that's going to evolve your soul, that's going to evolve your expression, is going to hit resistance. We want to stay safe. And so it's very important to do an exercise like this, to continually, oftentimes when I write, I write similar to what you're saying, all these inner critic things before I can even start writing, because the inner critic and that resistance is so loud. And Elizabeth Gilbert talks about resistance this way. She says in her book, Big Magic, which I love, and I highly encourage everybody to read this book, Big Magic, and listen to her podcast, is that when you begin any endeavor creatively, you are the driver in this car, and right beside you is fear, resistance, doubt. But you, as the driver of the car, whatever you do, do not let that passenger of fear is going to be with you the whole entire journey, is going to go on the ride with you. There's no way resistance, fear is not going to go with you. Whatever you do, though, don't let it take the steering wheel. Don't let it take over. So, but it's always going to be there. Don't wait for it to disappear. If anybody just saw Poor Things, who was it? Mark Ruffalo, the first day on the set, said, I don't have what it takes. I suck as an actor. I don't have the chops to do this role. I'm leaving. The director had to beg him, no, you've got it. You've got it. I don't care if you get the accent right. I don't care if you get it perfect. You are doing this role. So it happens at all levels. Okay, we're going to hear one more and then read one more. And it could also, somebody, Julie, writing the, I'm reading in the chat, your voice has been silent. You can share that too. You can pick anything in that invocation that came up. So let's hear from whoever it is,
Paula?
Susan.
Paula's next.
Okay.
Hi. Thanks so much, Anne. This is great. I did when have I silenced myself from speaking my own truth?
Okay.
I'm most afraid to write about my daughter-in-law and my son, and they're closing me away from my granddaughter. I feel shame for the errors and assumptions that I made about her. I did not realize that her family is more closed and a bit secretive, while mine is more open and very, very close, even to the point of discomfort. I'm sad because my attempts to apologize, reconcile, and rebuild seem to have been rebuffed. I know that my son loves me and feels caught in the middle, but she said I am toxic to her baby. Why does she think my son turned out okay if I am such a bad person? Is it just about power and control? Did I threaten her in some way or fail to listen? To me, she seems passive-aggressive, silent, and judging my every word. I have shut myself down and try to listen and only talk about cute baby, etc. My jokes are taken seriously and always read as me judging her. I never expected this to happen to me. I was so close to my mother-in-law, and she to me. Our love outlasted my marriage to her son, and I miss her every day. I wonder how she would advise me. My father saw the rift already at my son's wedding, I think, but he did not say too much to me. He was hurt they did not reach out to him after he drove 150 miles at the age of 97 just to be there. I just lost him about a year ago. He carved a buffalo that my son sat upon and pulled up on when he was learning to walk. I offered it to them and received a no thanks. I'm sentimental and would love them to be too, but they seem to want everything to be new and no clutter in their house. So I'm beginning to dispose of some of these artifacts. If they don't want them, why should I fill my house with sad memories? I'm angry and sad. And I lost my father just 1 year ago.
Thank you so much for that share. What did you discover just now, either in writing that or reading that out loud? Is there anything you discovered?
I'm just really, really sad about it. And, I feel so hopeless about it. And I just want to cry, but I'm angry too. Angry, hurt, sad, bouncing between those. And maybe I am judging her. She certainly has judged me.
Yeah, and just feeling the loss of the narrator in that piece, right? The loss of getting to know the grandchildren, the loss of the father, the loss of what would mom's not here, what would she say? And really feeling that. And I think it's just a beautiful way then to express all of that's going on, right? All the it's the anger, the sadness, all of it, and let that page listen. Let it listen. So thank you for sharing that.
Thank you for listening.
Yeah. Okay, we're going to do another exercise now. I know I see more hands that want to share, but I want to have another opportunity. Probably we'll have two more opportunities to share there. And this is a poem that was written by John O'Donohue about grief. And I'm going to read the poem and then I'm doing a little meditation. And within the meditation, I'm going to give the prompt. And I'm going to give you a little more time to write than 7 minutes. And this, I think, speaks deeply to anybody that's experienced tremendous grief. And Susan's going to put it up in the chat. And then from there, we're going to go into a meditation. When you lose someone you love, your life becomes strained.
Are you on mute?
I can't hear you.
And I think you went mute.
Oh, I think she has headphones on. They may have disconnected.
I'll text her. Yeah, I'm going to put this. Anne? And I wonder if your headsets pop may have died. If they did, you probably can't hear me.
Okay.
There we go. Perfect. Now, do you want to read the poem again? I'll put it back up.
Yeah, I don't think I finished it.
I don't think you started. Your sound went out pretty much right away. Here we
It
go.
did? Oh, sorry, Susan.
That's
So
okay.
sorry.
That's all right. Here we go.
Okay, I'm going to put it up again. Sorry about that, you guys.
Here we go.
Okay.
There you go.
When you lose someone you love, your life becomes strange. The ground beneath you gets fragile. Your thoughts make your eyes unsure, and some dead echo drags your voice down where words have no confidence. Your heart has grown heavy with loss, and though this loss has wounded others too, no one knows what has been taken from you when the silence of absence deepens. Flickers of guilt kindle regret for all that was left unsaid or undone. There are days when you wake up happy, again inside the fullness of life, until the moment breaks and you're thrown back onto the black tide of loss. Days when you have your heart back and you're able to function well until the middle of work or encounter suddenly, with no warning, you are ambushed by grief. It becomes hard to trust yourself. All you can depend on now is that sorrow will remain faithful to itself. More than you know, it knows its way and will find the right time to pull and pull the rope of grief until that coiled hill of tears has reduced to its last drop. Gradually, you will learn acquaintance with the invisible form of your departed. And when the work of grief is done, the wound of loss will heal, and you will have learned to wean your eyes from the gap in the air and be able to enter the hearth in your soul where your loved one has awaited your return all the time. I really love this poem. And also, I have trouble with one of the lines which says, when the work of grief is done, because I don't know if the work of grief is ever done. We're experiencing, and we will always have those feelings. And sometimes out of nowhere, what I love about this poem is that the grief will take us by surprise. So Susan will put that up in the poem, and I'm going to do a short meditation. And in the meditation, I will give a prompt, but the poem will also be up in the chat. So if there's a line that is speaking to you in the poem and you rather speak about that, you can do that. And so in every unmute class that I teach, and we always start with a meditation, which allows us to be way more receptive to what wants to come through us when our mind and body is relaxed. And I'm just going to put up the sound. I'm going to play the harmonium right now because I find the harmonium helps our mind settle. And Susan, if anybody's not hearing this, please let me know. So closing our eyes and settling in. And just letting the body soften. And let the words of the poem that you just heard Maybe they're coming to you as images, sounds, and just let go. And begin by tracing your breath from the beginning of the inhale all the way to the exhale. And with each exhale, let go of what might have just come before, the to-do list of the future, and just be here now in this moment. The only moment we truly have now. Then soften the muscles in the face and the eyes. Let go of any clenching in the jaw and the mouth area. Let the shoulders drop. Let them feel the pull of gravity. And arms, hands, fingers resting gently in your lap. Palms up, receptive. And feel your heart. What's the quality of your heart this very moment? And can you meet yourself with kindness and compassion? And down to the belly, softening even more. Knowing the key to creativity is mental and physical relaxation. And the pelvic area and the sit bones. Feel the place where the sit bones make contact with the chair. And thighs and calves and soles of the feet. Whole body listening now. And in this place of inwardness, I want you to think about someone or something that you have lost. It could be a loved one. It could be a pet. It could be your favorite pair of shoes. It could be a dream. It could be the loss of your body. It could be the loss of your home, of money. And when I'm speaking about loss, what do you remember about this loss? What do you remember about this particular loss? Where were you? How did it happen? Drop into a scene. So what season is it? What's the weather? Where are you? Are you outside? Are you in a hospital room? Is it a beautiful day? What are you hearing around this loss? Is there dialogue? Are there no words spoken? And what are you sensing and feeling? What are the smells and the touch or lack of touch? So using all our senses to recall a loss. And begin with the sentence, what I remember most about this loss is. You don't have to take that sentence, but that's a good start place if you like. What I remember most about this loss, and just write for 10 minutes, or maybe you want to write a list of losses, or take something from the poem. It's your choice. Here we go. One more minute. Okay, we are at time. And I would love to hear from anybody if they would like to share what they discovered in this exercise, or if they would like to read out loud. Maybe somebody who hasn't read yet or shared yet. Go ahead, Susan.
I
Susan Barber, did she call in
Yes,
something?
I muted and I'm going to unmute. Jay, do you want to go ahead and unmute yourself, please?
Okay.
There you go.
I'll just read this.
Jay, it's great to see you because I've not seen you
Great.
forever today. So
Good
great
to
to
see
see
you.
you, Jay.
Can you hear me?
Mhm.
Yes.
Okay. What I remember most about this loss is I don't know, because this loss isn't over yet. Maybe it hasn't started. Maybe it's just a sour, defeating illusion I'm caught on. What I remember is how difficult it's been the last few times we've been together, and the distance between those times. I remember this morning hoping for a phone call or at least more substantial responses to my texts. I remember feeling so many feelings I'm now feeling less and less. As I tell myself this is just a temporary thing, something I've got to wait out. I remember being a lot more hopeful about it actually working out like that. I also remember how incredibly good it's been.
I love the honesty of that, the vulnerability of like in the middle of this narrator, in the middle of this, not sure what's going to happen and hoping for more, and also recalling the good, what has been good. Any discovery, Jay, in reading that out loud or in writing it?
I don't know. I kind of was, I mean, it wasn't what I was planning on writing on. I think my mother died a few years ago, so that loss has been really hanging over me. But so yeah, I've got this. If anybody didn't figure it out, this is about a relationship that I don't know if I'm losing or not. But yeah, that's that's what I'm really feeling right now. So,
I'm glad you let yourself write about it, because that's what emerged. It wasn't about your mom. This is what came through and wanted to be written.
yeah.
And I'm wondering if we had more time, where would it might have led to that. Maybe it didn't, and maybe it would go to past relationships with longer period of write. But I love that you just gave yourself permission to go with what did arise. So thank you, Jay. Thank you. Let's go to somebody else. Who else?
Andrea or Andrea.
Andrea.
Andrea, thank you.
So many losses stacked one on top of the other. Before losing my beloved Shosh, my wife, my life partner, my partner in crime and joy and everything in between. I lost the place that was home for me when Aunt Lo had to go into assisted living as the tidal wave of the pandemic slammed over all our lives. The place was my safe space when I went back east. Then Shosha's mom, my sweet mother-in-law at the beginning of 2021. Then our center of the universe, our rescue miniature poodle Bella, 1 month later. 3 years ago yesterday. Oh, I forgot Ray, my friend Ray, to the freak bike accident in December 2020. Too many to keep count. The year took Florence, then Anne, and then my Shosh, the center of my life, my heart, my joy. And then I had to pack up what had been our life, find a new place to live, and walk away from home, the home we shared. But first, the massive stroke 2 months after Shosh died that paralyzed my left side so that I had to learn how to walk again, dress and wash myself, and think, for God's sakes, with a brain that is now different. My wife's pension and insurance, lost of forms not filled out properly, my life as I knew it, and friends who felt I was not responding, acting properly and with the necessary grace. I lost hope that year in 2022.
Oh, thank you so much for sharing that incredibly moving piece about the risk of loss and feeling that. And anything you want to share about just putting that down on paper? Any discovery?
It's hard to find the sort of the chronology.
Yeah. But just the list of that, right? The impact as the listener on that, and feeling you and that in your words of. So thank you really, really for sharing that piece. Okay. Who else out there?
So we're going to go to Darlene and then Connie S. Darlene,
Okay.
could you unmute yourself?
And I just have to say, as a facilitator, it's really hard after hearing a piece of writing, then to switch gears and say, okay, next, because it's so deep and so powerful and so rich, and just to like say, okay, but I wanted to have an opportunity to hear more voices here today. So thank you. And if in the chat and you're hearing somebody share, maybe recall a line that really spoke to you and touched you and how you were moved by just the of what was just spoken. So, all right, here we go.
Okay. Hi.
Hi.
Okay. So I just started writing. My losses are two that seem to be ending at the same time. My son due to sickness, and my husband due to our separate schedules, and that we're in different places in our lives. What I'm feeling is free from my husband, but also confused because free is not what I should be feeling. My son, I feel hurt for him because he never experienced real life living. I'm currently processing all of what I'm feeling, and I'm just now doing it in this class for the first time. I am separating from them both because I have to, in order to be mentally okay and to do what I want. It is all very strange because I'm retired, but it's just all very strange, but it's a loss for me.
Way to go. This is like the first time, right? Putting your thoughts and feelings on the page in this way.
Yes,
And
yes.
how was that for you? How was that for you?
It was good. It was good because I love when things make sense and and I feel things. So I love it when revelations happen. I just love it because then you could move forward with yourself, So thank you for this class. Thank you.
And you're making connections there, and you're making discoveries on the page, right? You're which is beautiful. And doing this regularly too, you start to get direction and clarity. Like you had that line, like, well, I shouldn't be feeling free, right? But then if we kept writing, you might say, well, wait, who is that? Who's that voice that's saying this narrator should not feel free? Like then watching that go down, right? A little discussion on the page around that.
Yes, and I'm on this writing journey. I was never a writer, but lately I've been taking so many different classes and I'm becoming a writer. And in some ways I'm afraid to say that I'm a writer because this feeling that I have from writing feels so good, and I'm so afraid that it's going to go away if I start really saying that I'm a writer. But it has just been so freeing in my mind and everything. So anyway, let me be quiet because other people have to go.
That's beautiful. And it's beautiful that you're affirming that you're a writer. I'm affirming it. So thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, who's next out there?
Connie S. Do you want to go ahead and unmute yourself, please?
Hi, Anne and Susan. It's been a minute. Great to see you both.
Thank you.
This was interesting. Not what I expected to be writing about. Okay, so I'll just start. What I remember most about this loss is the day the heavy machinery moved in, the brutal sawing machines. They made quick work of the ancient forest. They decapitated and removed the trees with precise cuts. Nothing was leveled, it was just lifted away and disposed of. The warm, dark arms of the forest were lifted away, and nothing any longer held my cabin in a sacred space any longer. I was suddenly exposed in the glaring light, the empty space, the landscape unrecognizable. All the birds, wildlife, flowers, and ferns lost their home that day too. Barren mountains came into stark view. They had logged them off prior, secretively, and the hair brutally razored from their heads. We all stood in shock and watched the Holocaust, our community. We cried out, but it was too late. Our community died that day with the forest. Our safe enclosure was gone, our homes gone. We were all now part of the barren landscape, and it no longer nurtured our lives. And one by one, we sold off and left. We became nomads looking for home.
Oh my gosh. Oh, that's so powerful and so moving. Sherry wrote a line, which I think is beautiful, that she put in the chat that she was, hearing from me. The warm, dark arms of the forest were lifted away and suddenly exposed. So really feeling the loss of home, the loss of for the whole community. And how was that to write that, to speak that?
I guess what was struck me, Anne, about it is that I haven't written about this or talked about it. Like, I just moved off, but sometimes you're looking in Facebook and a picture shows up, and my cabin showed up with the huge forest and behind an old growth forest. I live in Vancouver, British Columbia, but at the time I was living in the mountains, and we had heard rumors that the land had been sold off to a developer, but we did not expect what happened that day. And to finally, like, have it happen all one morning, just hearing the machinery moved in and all of us standing there, I suddenly just felt it, and then started thinking about all the people that just moved away after that. We just left and never ever had a grief about what happened. We just left. And that was 3 months before the pandemic. So it was just one
And
thing
also
after
just
another.
starting with the machinery moving in, like I'm gripped the minute you begin, like here it comes, right? I'm right in there, listener as the reader, in the strong verbs of decapitated. And I mean, powerful. Thank you. I really want to hear everybody out there, and I want to do another exercise. So it's really hard. We're not gonna have time, but I'm gonna do a little quick plug for Unmute, because if you come to the writing community that I have starting on March 11th, you can write and share your posts and get feedback. Anybody can. So I'm going to read this last poem because we just wrote about loss, and we might be feeling that loss right now. And we might be in the middle of the loss, like Jay just sharing. He's in the middle of it, right? And what do you do in the middle of it? How do you move forward? What's the next step to take? Sometimes we just feel like we can't do anything. We're just so numb, or we're so full of sadness. What is that next step when we're in this grief and in this loss? And I'm going to read a beautiful poem by David White, and then have us do a write, because internally our heart, our soul knows what the next step is. So I'm going to read this poem, and then we're going to write one more short write here. Here it is. Start close in. Don't take the second step or the third. Start with the first thing, close in, the step you don't want to take. Start with the ground you know, the pale ground beneath your feet, your own way of starting the conversation. Start with your own question. Give up on other people's questions. Don't let them smother something simple. I think we have more. Where's this? Okay. To find another's voice, follow your own voice. Wait until that voice becomes a private ear listening to another. Start right now. Take a small step you can call your own. Don't follow someone else's heroics. Be humble and focused. Start close in. Don't mistake that other for your own. Start close in. Don't take the second step or first start with the first thing close in, the step you don't want to take. So I'd like to end on a short write of what is that next step for you? What is the next step forward for you? And Susan will put it in the chat. And if there's another line that's speaking to you besides what I just asked for the prompt, that's fine too. Or if you were just writing something and you want to continue writing what you just wrote, continue with that. But maybe, let's see what time it is, about 7 minutes right now to just write about what is the next step for you? What would be most helpful in your journey as somebody who is walking with grief, or what is the next step in your journey creatively? What's the next step for you to reach to that new horizon, whatever that might be? One more minute. Okay, that is time. And before we go on to hear maybe a couple more people share, it's really important that the people that share here feel safe. So any negative comment or criticism, and there was a comment in chat right now that would probably not make that reader feel comfortable at all for what they just shared. And please know that Susan is addressing that with the person that put that comment up. And when I teach, this is a one time that I'm doing this, but when I teach my course, there's very strong guidelines on what can be said in chat, because the most important thing is that one feels safe and not criticized, and no negative feedback, no fighting amongst oneself in chat. So the course that I have on mute is extremely safe in that those boundaries are set in place. And I'm really sorry to see a comment on chat that was, provocative and questioning the author that shared that particular piece. Susan, do you want to say anything about that?
I think that the person may have left, but I know that there's oftentimes in a mute where people are writing very personally about things that they feel, and that this is a safe space for that to happen. And I think one of the things that's been most useful, at least for me in a mute, is deepening the skill of listening, and like not my reactive self that would be like, wait a minute, what you just wrote, what you just said out loud, like, well, did you like really give that a lot of thought, and like this really lands wrong with me, or any of those things. It's just not my response anymore. I just am really trying to listen and hear what the person is trying to say, and the language that is used may not be language I would use, but then I can write my own story about that topic. So I just want to, I feel like for a mute, it's just one of the safest spaces that I have ever been in. And I know that Anne goes through a lot of trouble, and normally there are guidelines that then, I can address by the guidelines, but we didn't post those today. So I think that's enough.
Thank you.
I think that there are
Thank you.
probably people that do want to share. So
Yeah, let's hear from a couple. And the other thing I say because oftentimes, look, we all have different points of view, but it's
yes.
being able to hold that space. And I go back to the Hafiz poem, which is, how do I listen? I listen as if everyone were my master, speaking their last cherished words. So I'm listening with my whole heart and being. It may not be my experience, but I am honoring that writer's voice and how they words a situation, experience that is utmost honoring. Okay, we have time for maybe one or two here. Here we go. Who's going to be Susan?
So Kira and then Jay.
Okay.
Kira, can you unmute, please?
Okay, I'm unmuted.
There you go. Whoops, I'm sorry. There you go. One more time. I think I just unmute. There you go.
Okay.
Perfect.
Can you hear me?
We
Okay.
can.
Yes.
Okay. The next step is for it all to be okay, to take a risk, to fail and not get mad, to create something ugly, imperfect, and love it anyway, to stop apologizing for existing, to accept the beauty in my imperfect self. to lie in my dead mother's arms and say, I'm sorry, to tear away the numbness and taste cinnamon, taste everything, maybe for the first time, to realize I am loved, really. That's it.
Ah, so it's beautiful. I love it. It's just like an affirmation to accept it all and to allow it all. And gorgeous. I love that. Thank you. I think I'm pronouncing it right. Gaia, you quoted Kira to stop apologizing for existing, right? And to allow for information, giving yourself tremendous permission there in that piece. Thank you.
I'm not even sure how I feel about cinnamon.
All right. Who else out there?
Jay, do you want to unmute?
Yeah.
Or
I'm gonna put my video off so that I can read my phone.
perfect.
Can you hear me?
We can.
Yes.
What to write now? Don't know what, how, or how people want to hear me. What will make them see me without triggering anger, fear, or judgment, hatred, and projection towards me. But I get that without writing my truth, just for existing in the world and being unique, triggering their own feelings of inadequacies. I don't know what my next write is supposed to look like and how I can be seen without criticism or rejection, especially because that's what I felt from my family most of my life. Do I write how I'm supposed to write? What do the people want to hear? How would I resonate more with them? Because I could see it all directions, and I can take any one of them in the narrator's point of view. But I want to be truthful. A memoir, it's not like a theater piece where I have creative rights to do what I want with it. A memoir has to be truthful and accurate.
Okay, thank you. I love that you said you can see in all directions, but you want to tell your truth, and then you're claiming that. You're claiming that, Jamie. So thank you for sharing that. And we're going to end on Andy. And then I have one thing. Go ahead, Andy.
Okay. Over the last few days, I read a novel by a hot, as in popular novelist, and I really enjoyed it. Well, I also didn't enjoy it. What I enjoyed was that the writing really captured some essence of people's millennials' lives without lots of fancy language. What I didn't enjoy was that I felt like I was not as deep as the people in the novel or as the woman writing it, that I don't have the life experience of these people or the insight or whatever. So I thought that whatever I would write would be shallow in comparison. Like, you could tell the author had done a lot of reading and had thought a lot about philosophy and religion, about other people. You could tell she had some really good friends and complicated real relationships. I only have one friend who's lasted. I mean, and he didn't last, but then he came back. Last year, he reached out to me out of the blue and asked if I wanted to have weekly phone calls. He got the idea from a podcast by that Israeli woman who's a famous couples counselor. Normally she has couples on her show, but for one episode, she had these two guys who were just friends. She called it Couples Therapy for Friends. Anyway, the two friends on the podcast had fallen out over the years, and in this therapy session, they talked about why. Turned out that each of the friends perceived that the other didn't want to be friends anymore or perceived some slight. Instead of checking it out, they just stopped talking to each other for like a decade. And that was the same as with me and Andy. Maybe I'll stop there.
Oh, Andy, I love hearing your voice. I love the right away. Well, maybe I'm not as deep. There's humor. I'm used to Andy's voice because there's so much humor in there, but it's also the vulnerability. Well, what if I'm not like this author, right? And then this whole journey of rekindling with a friend from listening to the podcast. It's a great story. I'm completely engaged, Andy, and thank you for sharing that. Thank you. Okay. Yeah. All righty. We are at time. We've got one more minute. And I want to talk a little bit. Well, first of all, I just want to thank everybody for the incredible vulnerability and the sharing that and giving yourself permission to write today in this hour and a half. And know that these feelings might be stirring around with you all day, and to keep writing, keep picking up that pen if it wants to come out. And I also want to thank Susan Barber, who made this happen, the Elisabeth Kübler-Ross Foundation. And I also want to invite anybody on March 11th. I started daily, Monday through Friday, every day for a whole month except weekends where we write together, and you can post your writing and share your writing. And if you sign up, 50% goes to Elisabeth Kübler-Ross Foundation. So I just want to put a plug out there. And Susan, anything you want to say before we end on our song?
Well, I want to thank you so much, Anne, because this is literally the only fundraising that we've been doing this year. Hopefully that's going to change, but I did put up a link there. I will put this up. The class cost, it's $169. Is that correct, Anne, at this?
Yeah.
Yep, it's
You can go to my
$169.
website.
It will start on the 11th of March. It goes Monday through Friday, 9 to 10. On Wednesdays, there's a master class, which is wonderful because writers from Unmute are asked to share their stories, and Anne does some work with them. And there is an affiliate link. If you sign up through this, it benefits the Elisabeth Kübler-Ross Foundation, and that is up there. And I will also put up a website for Anne's class. If you're already in Unmute, probably best to just sign up via this. I think the affiliate link is really to attract people who haven't had the opportunity before. Here you go. And then I will put this up, and I'll just want to let everybody know that everybody that was here today, 1 second, here's the website. Somebody sent me a message, so it only went to them. There's something else about, I'm going to email all of the poems that were used, the reference Anne made to the War of Art, and the links to the invocation and this May All Beings, which will end the class right now. Let me put this up here. Okay.
Thank you, Susan. And we always end Unmute, and we'll end today with a song that I learned from Miranda McPherson, a meditation teacher that I met at Esalen. And this is May All Beings. And you can sing along, those that know the song from Unmute. May all beings dwell in their heart. May all beings be free of suffering. May all beings be healed. May all beings know their wholeness. May all beings be happy and at peace. Unmute. And I'm so sorry for all those that had their hands up and I didn't get to hear you read, but I can tell you, if you come to unmute, I can hear you. I can read you. So thank you
Thank you
all.
so much.
Bye.
Thank you.